There's a moment in your life, maybe you don't talk about it anymore, when you learned something quietly, almost mechanically. If you don't control the emotional atmosphere around you, you will get hurt. It wasn't said to you in words. It was taught through tension, through silence, through sudden shifts in tone, through people who exploded or retreated or collapsed unless you managed the moment for them. So you grew up with a kind of sixth sense and invisible radar that picked up the slightest change in someone's mood. A sigh, a pause, a change in breathing, even the way someone closed a door. All of it mattered, because all of it determined your safety, and over time, you learned to control. Not violently, not loudly, not with power, but with emotional precision. You learned to read people before they spoke. You learned to adjust your tone before they reacted. You learned to withhold your feelings so no one could weaponize them. You learned to anticipate every outcome and reduce every possibility of conflict. You became an emotional strategist long before you became an adult, and now, years later, here's the paradox. The very thing that once protected you is the same thing that now isolates you. The walls you built to protect your heart became the cage around it. The control you used to create safety now prevents connection. You'd like to think you're being rational. You tell yourself you're just being careful, or just observing, or just not that expressive. But deep inside, you know you monitor people because you don't trust emotional unpredictability. You know you predict scenarios because uncertainty triggers your old wounds. You know you control situations quietly because losing control once meant losing everything. People misread you. Some think you're cold, some think you're distant, some think you're manipulative. But the truth, you are terrified of what might happen if you ever stop controlling the emotional temperature of the room. This video isn't about the cartoon version of manipulation. It's not about villains or narcissists or masterminds. It's about youth person who became a master of emotional control, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. And today, we're going to walk into that internal world, peel back the defenses, and explore the hidden psychology of emotional control and the price you pay for it. Emotional control, especially the kind learned in childhood, is rarely about power. It's about survival. To understand it, we need to break down several psychological concepts. Asterisk 1. Hypervigilance solitaire is a state where the nervous system becomes hypersensitive to emotional threat. It develops when a child grows up in unpredictable environments, volatile parents, shifting emotions, ongoing conflict, or constant judgment. Your brain becomes wired to scan for danger, even when none is present. This is why you notice tone shifts before others do, why silence feels like tension, why uncertainty feels like a threat. Hypervigilance is the birthplace of emotional control. You'll monitor the world to avoid pain. 2. Emotional parentification is when a child becomes the emotional caretaker of their parent or household. You're the one who soothes them, calms them, avoids triggering them. You regulate their emotions because they cannot regulate their own. Parentified children often become adults who feel responsible for everyone's feelings. They take on the emotional weight of relationships. They anticipate others' needs. They feel guilty for normal boundaries. They avoid vulnerability because they were never allowed to have needs of their own. Parentification teaches a harmful message. If I don't control the emotions around me, everything falls apart. 3. Avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment forms when caregivers react negatively to a child's emotional expression. Crying is met with irritation. Fear is ignored. Needs are minimized. Vulnerability is discouraged, so the child learns, my emotions are unsafe. I must manage them alone. This becomes emotional control turned inward. You don't just control others, you control yourself. Avoidant attachment is characterized by suppressing your true feelings, keeping emotional distance, appearing strong to avoid dependence, *, staying in your head instead of your heart, Asterisk, neurological rewiring. When you live in environments where emotional unpredictability is dangerous, the brain adapts. The amygdala, the fear center, becomes overactive. Asterisk, the prefrontal cortex, rational brain overcompensates. Asterisk, the default mode network becomes primed for rumination, prediction, and emotional forecasting. Asterisk, in other words, your nervous system learns control as a default setting. Asterisk, not because you chose it. Asterisk, but because your body concluded it was the safest way to exist. There is a cost to emotional control, a heavy cost, a cost most people never see, because emotional control is not just a behavior, it is a burden, and at its core, it is grief. Grief for the childhood you didn't get to have, grief for the safety you never felt, grief for the person you might have become if you were allowed to express your feelings without fear. When you control emotions, yours or others, you carry invisible fear. Fear of conflict, fear of exposure, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing the connection you're desperately trying to maintain. The philosopher Carl Jung once wrote, "Where love rules, there is no will to power." But in your life, love and power became fused. You learned that to keep love, you had to manage the emotional climate. You had to hold the strings quietly, carefully, subtly. You didn't seek power, you sought security. But emotional control has a hidden cruelty, not toward others, but toward yourself. Because control means you rarely ask for help. You rarely show weakness. You rarely tell people when something hurts. You rarely let anyone have emotional impact on you. You become the master of your internal world, but also a prisoner in it. Your relationships suffer. Connection becomes shallow. Boundaries feel manipulative. Honesty feels dangerous. Love feels conditional. Emotional control creates a life where you're always fine, always okay, always managing. Even when you're breaking inside, you don't fall apart. You fall inward, and no one sees it. When emotional control becomes your default, adulthood becomes a performance. Here is how it shows up in your life. 1. You struggle with vulnerability. You might say, "Yeah, I'm just a private person." But the truth is deeper. You fear that opening up will give someone the power to hurt you. Point 2. You become the emotional thermostat. You sense tension before anyone else. You adjust your behavior to prevent conflict. You apologize even when you're not wrong. You soothe, stabilize, redirect. Not because you want control, but because you fear chaos. 3. You use logic to avoid emotional exposure. You intellectualize everything. You analyze instead of feel. You problem solve instead of express. You explain your emotions instead of experiencing them. 4. You avoid people who feel too intense, not because they're dramatic, but because they remind you of past instability. Intensity threatens your sense of control. 5. You unintentionally manipulate situations to avoid vulnerability, not maliciously, not cruelly, but instinctively. You change topics. You give partial truths. You keep people at arm's length. You maintain ambiguity so no one can hurt you. 6. You attract emotionally dependent people because you're controlled. Self-contained aura feels stable to them. You become their anchor, and you resent them for it. These behaviors are not personality traits. They are coping strategies. They are survival patterns, and unlearning them requires something radical. You must witness your own pain without explaining it away. You must stop gaslighting yourself into believing you are just being responsible, just being strong, just being independent. Your emotional control is not a preference. It is a wound in disguise. Healing begins when you understand one truth. Control was never your real power. Your real power is choice. You can choose new patterns. You can choose softness. You can choose connection. You can choose authenticity over performance. Here are the practices that open that door to 1. Inner child reparenting. Speak to the version of you who believed emotions were dangerous. Let them know they never had to carry that responsibility. Teach them gently that expression is safe now. 2. Shadow work. Confront the parts of you that fear vulnerability, not to destroy them, but to understand them. Your shadow is not the enemy. It is the orphaned truth of your past. Point 3. Allowing emotional impact. Let people affect you, not recklessly, but openly. Every time you express an honest emotion, you loosen the chains of control. 4. Choosing softness over strategy. Not every moment needs to be predicted. Not every conversation needs to be managed. Let silence be just silence. Let people be responsible for their own emotions. 5. Tolerating uncertainty. Sit with discomfort. Let yourself feel the tremor of not knowing. Healing requires surrender, not the collapsing kind, but the opening kind. The philosopher Rilke wrote, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." And that is the heart of this video. Your emotional control once kept you alive, but now it keeps you from living. You don't need to abandon it overnight. You don't need to become someone different. You simply need to let yourself expand beyond the walls you built for protection, because you were never meant to maintain the climate of every room. You were meant to exist freely in it. And if this message felt like it was speaking directly to you, it's because it was. You are not broken. You're carrying too much, and it's time to put it down. If this video resonated with your story, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more deep psychological explorations. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to become whole.